Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at double angle formulas and half angle formulas. So to start off, we're looking at chapter 7, section 3. I actually wrote in the top right corner our sum formulas, which is from our last section, 7.2, because we're going to be using them to find our double angle formulas. So first we're looking at sine, and we're trying to find what double angle means is trying to find sine of 2 theta. What we can do is rewrite sine of 2 theta as sine of theta plus theta. So we have 2 thetas we're adding. And then we can use our sum formula, we see up here, to rewrite sine of theta plus theta. So instead of alpha and beta, we just have theta for both of them. Sine theta cosine theta plus cosine theta sine theta. Which if we rewrite, or if we combine, we get sine of 2 theta is equal to 2 times sine of theta cosine of theta. And that's it. That's our double angle formula for sine. So we can find that just using our sum formula. Let's also take a look at cosine. So for cosine, we're looking at cosine of 2 theta. Just like with sine, we can rewrite this as cosine of theta plus theta. And then use our use our sum formula up here to rewrite cosine of theta plus theta. So we get cosine of theta minus sine theta sine theta. In other words, cosine of 2 theta is equal to cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. And that is our double angle formula for cosine. Cosine of 2 theta equals. So in other words, we're rewriting sine of 2 theta, cosine of 2 theta in terms of just cosine theta, sine theta. Okay. You might see some alternate forms. So there's 2 more forms listed for cosine. One of them is where we replace cosine squared, that first part, with 1 minus sine squared. So just using our Pythagorean identity, which gives us cosine of 2 theta equals 1 minus 2 sine squared theta. So this is one other form. The other form is taking sine squared theta and replacing it with 1 minus cosine squared theta. Second term. So this form looks like cosine of 2 theta is equal to 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. So those are the 2 other forms. We're mainly going to focus on these forms, though, the sine 2 theta and cosine 2 theta that we first wrote down. Okay, I'm blocking it a little bit. Cosine of 2 theta equals 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. Okay, next let's take a look at our half angle formulas. So our half angle formulas are actually going to be using those alternate equations that we saw on the right there. Let's start off with sine. So one of the formulas we wrote was cosine of 2 theta equals 1 minus 2 sine squared theta. We can rewrite this as 2 sine squared theta equals 1 minus cosine 2 theta. So just adding, subtracting from both sides. Finally, if we wanted to isolate the sine squared, we divide by 2. Sine squared theta equals 1 minus cosine of 2 theta over 2. Okay, now what we're going to do is our ultimate goal is to get sine of theta over 2, our half angle formulas. So what we're going to do is replace theta with alpha over 2. Replace theta with alpha over 2. Because then on the left side, we have sine squared of alpha over 2. So we're close to sine of alpha over 2, or sine of some angle divided by 2, is equal to 1 minus cosine of, if we take alpha over 2 and multiply it by 2, we just end up with alpha all over 2. And then finally, to end up with sine alpha over 2, or sine of some angle divided by 2, we're just going to take the square root of both sides. So our formula in this case is sine of alpha over 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine alpha over 2. And this is our half angle formula for sine. So sine some angle over 2 is equal to the plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine alpha over 2. And one note is this plus or minus is determined by the quadrant. Determined by the quadrant that we're located in. So that's going to tell us what the signs are, the sign values are of sine and cosine. So if it's positive or negative. So we're only taking positive or negative, and we know that from the quadrant. Okay, next we're going to take a look at cosine, which is really similar. We'll start off with one of our alternate forms that we saw on the right. Cosine of 2 theta equals 2 cosine theta, 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. If we move some stuff around, we end up with cosine squared theta is equal to 1 plus cosine 2 theta. And then all over 2. Again, we're going to replace theta with alpha over 2. Cosine squared of alpha over 2 equals 1 plus cosine alpha all over 2. And then our final equation is cosine of alpha over 2. This is our cosine half angle formula, is equal to plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine of alpha all over 2. Okay, great. And just like with our sine half angle, the sign, the positive or negative sign, is determined by the quadrant that we're in. So that's how we can find our half angle formulas. Okay, cool. So in this video, we just introduced our double angle formulas, half angle formulas, and showed where they came from using what we've learned previously in this unit.